Are you wearing a blanket?
It's actually a giant scarf that
Okay.
I thought I was originally gonna wear as a as a scarf. Nice Fireball Island reference, dude. Fucking
Thank you.
A. Um, no, it was a scarf, and then I realized it was so thick once I rolled it out that I could just wear it as a blanket. So that's what I'm rolling with. Yeah, because there's a tiny bit of snow coming out of the sky here in Vancouver. Now I know it's been hasn't it been -40 in Edmonton for like a month or something crazy?
Yeah, it's been minus 40, minus 45 a couple nights ago. Really, really cold. Really cold.
Ever heard of the -5? That band? We should start a band called the -45.
Okay.
So, in any case, formal introduction. Welcome to Handkerchief Dynasty, everybody. This is episode 110. I am, as always, your secret professor, joined by my good friend to the side here, the High Priest of Oilers Magic. How are you, High Priest?
Pretty good.
I still haven't really a proper home studio setup. It's just been a series of just completely improvised nooks and corners.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping hoping to have a higher production value and a higher resolution camera very, very soon. But that being said, please follow us on Twitter at I'm at Handkerchief DY1. Brad here is at High Priest Oil. Fantastic account. And follow us wherever you get your podcasts. So let's just lay into it here. What was the first thing you thought when Mikko let in a goal on the first shot yesterday?
Well, the first thing I thought is what I've been thinking this entire time and what I continue to think, that Mikko Koskinen isn't a great goalie. And I wish Mike Smith was in net. That's what I thought.
I'm pretty impressed because you really have been beating the drum. I mean, I think he's a backup goalie who's being paid way too much.
Sure, a backup goalie, but then we need to stop referring to what we hope to happen as a tandem setup, because I don't think it's going to be a tandem setup. For a tandem to work, both goalies have to be really good. That's the way a tandem finds success. Otherwise, you have your standard one goalie and a backup situation, which I think is closer to what the Oilers have right now.
With the starter being 39 years old, basically.
First of all, he's 38 years old. I've noticed that everyone calls. Can you imagine if you were Mike Smith? And everyone's
he's actually 38. Everyone's been saying 39.
I know. Well, they're saying it like you say it. They say both numbers as though he's both of those things. Mike Smith is 38 years old. When you're 38 years old, you don't want people calling you 39 years old, especially when they're using your age to make some sort of silly point. He's 38 years old, first of all. And
it's not really a silly point. The point is, if that's the case in a few years, our goaltending could drop off a complete cliff if we don't get a long-term solution as a starter.
Yes. But I mean, looking long-term, I think that's something maybe the Oilers are guilty of doing a little bit too often, and using that line of thinking to sort of excuse their shitty decision-making. Long-term, it's yeah, but what about
I know exactly
right now term? Anyway,
here's the thing too.
I'm glad he got. What did you think about? I mean, I'm glad he got the win, but to me,
he played better and better as the game went on.
I guess so. To me, that game was all about Hogberg losing that game. Yeah, Mikko faced 40 shots.
It was.
But a lot of those shots were that was a quiet 40 shots. I can't really remember very many, if any, saves Mikko made where I was like, holy shit. There was a lot of shots from behind the goal line. A lot of shots where had they gone in, they would have been another shitty Mikko goal. He didn't, there weren't a lot of real grade A chances that he stopped. So yeah, he made 40 saves. He got the win. I'm super stoked that happened. But the people that are saying Mikko stole that game, no, that's horseshit. That's not what a goalie stealing a game looks like.
Who's saying Mikko stole that game? I haven't heard that.
Oh man,
I heard someone say he played
last night. Reed
Did he?
Wilson
Oh,
said it last
I
night
didn't hear
after
the
the
after
game.
game last night. I'm gonna
Yes,
listen to it
lots of
later.
people are saying that the main story, the main takeaway from that game was Miko's stellar performance.
Were they holding like a tire pump in their hands that had
Well, yeah,
recently been
totally.
used or was about to be used? Because that's what that's about. I mean, you know, when I'm all for positivity, you know me, I'm Mr. fucking positivity at Handkerchief
Yes,
TY1 on Twitter. Follow us
I
now.
know, but I don't.
People love me for that. I'm always getting compliments. You know, I really appreciate the positivity. But the fact of the matter is, Miko's not playing great. I mean, this is my spin. This is my brand of positivity vis-a-vis Mikko Koskinen right now. Okay.
Right.
It's that goalies can go through hot and cold streaks, and he's just happens to have been going through a cold streak, and
A
he's
cold
going to
what?
play a cold streak,
Oh,
a cold spell. Let's call it a cold spell because he's a goalie and they're wizards, so we'll call it
I thought
cold
you said.
spell.
Okay.
I didn't say streak. No, I said
Okay.
streak.
Okay. You had an opportunity to say strike, and you avoided saying strike.
Well, it's no, because a strike is when the team is going out for
Right.
a nice juicy steak
Sorry,
with a side of
I'm
mashed potatoes. Totally different things.
I apologize. Sidetracking you.
So my theory is, you know, with a little bit of time, with a little bit of Mike Smith in the mix, you know, maybe this time come like you know, April or March, Mikko will be doing good and he'll be like above, you know, like a 905 save percentage or whatever.
Yeah, totally. So, I feel the exact same way, but I just hope that we don't trick ourselves into confusing positivity with
just abject self-delusion.
Yes, exactly.
Always a tricky wicket as an Oilers fan, though. You know, not conflating your positivity with just baseline ridiculous, completely disconnected from reality, should be into institutionalized delusion. Like, that's what being an Oilers fan does to your brain.
I know, but we have to remember this is a sports team that should be concerned with wins and not necessarily positivity. Like
propaganda.
Positivity. Well, positivity was something like during the decade of darkness. That was something that.
I mean, it was requisite. We needed some of it. I mean, it was the only way to survive. So,
but we're in a
point mechanism.
Now. Yes, we're in a point now. We're at a point now where I think we can kind of afford to be a little more bloodthirsty in the way.
Absolutely.
The way the troops are deployed, the way we try to win games. You know what I mean? Like.
Well, here's the thing.
And even as the way we support the team, even the way we support the team, you know what I mean? Like we can. Although some people really think like Mikko's doing well, he has numbers. He's played a lot of minutes, so I don't know. I'm glad.
I think he's done. Honestly, I think he's been okay to subpar. I wouldn't say he's been terrible. At no point have I said to myself, Mikko Koskinen isn't an NHL goalie. That's the death knell. That's the sword of Damocles. Once that phrase comes out, because once you start saying this guy's not an NHL goaltender, then you're in a whole new territory. I mean, like,
well, I said that after the Calgary game, no question. No question. That was an opus of a bad goaltending performance, and it came at the worst possible time. After 3 days of Mikko's, I mean, the rest, like his precious rest, like he finally got his precious rest, and then he came out and played awful. But anyway, let's move on to something else. What do you think? What do you think about the emergence of Jujar Kara on the third line? What do you think's going on there? What are your thoughts on Jujar?
I mean, I'm cheering like hell for him. I mean, you know, it's he's a player that it's impossible not to like when he's playing well. It's just he's had a little bit of a cold snap here for a while. So
don't you think that? I mean, to me right now, Jujar is it feels like he's emerging, and it feels in a way, and this might just be timing, that he's emerging from under the shadow of Zach Kassian in a really strange way.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't think he necessarily brings the type of game that Zach Kassian brings, but maybe the game that Jujar brings when he's on is more in line with what a team like the Oilers requires for success.
Well, yeah, I think that could be true, because like Zach Kassian is kind of like that can of crazy, can of just like open it up, and it's so vacuum sealed, like so much air gets released from the pressure that it's been subjected to, that you just like, sometimes you don't know if you're getting a firework or like a grenade, you know?
And that's
Whereas,
why he was on the first line. Like, make no mistake, that's why he was playing with Connor McDavid. He was in a policeman role, I think.
To a certain extent, yeah, I think for sure. Although, you know, I think the days of that experiment are really over here. But Jujar, I feel like, has a lot more grind to his game, a lot more kill the clock to his game than Cassian does. You know, like he's actually like a good support player. When he's playing well, he's a good support player in that he gets the zone, you know, he can get zone time. He can make and take a pass. He can finish a play. He can check. He can fight and kind of do it. He's a Swiss Army knife type player when he's playing well. So yeah, of course he brings more than Cassian does, because Cassian's just dropped off, man. Like,
but I mean, Jujar can also play that game. Like Jujar, I mean, he got in a scrap the other night. You know, like it's not completely unfathomable that Jujar could play that type of game, that we could see the vacuum seal come off Jujar at any point, really, and I wouldn't be entirely surprised. Like, I think he's also got that to his game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cheering like hell for him to keep on playing this well. If he keeps playing this well, he's an Oiler long term, no question. But the thing is, we have to remember, you know, a few weeks ago we had all completely given up on him again, and we've gone through cycles. There's been many cycles of the Jujar.
Absolutely. But he's also gotten so many chances. I think the team really believes in him, and like the coaching staff really believes in him, and they've been trying to find sort of the best formula to get success with him. And maybe that kind of took the I don't want to say downfall, that's the wrong word. What's it called, like when the sun is setting? The
decline?
Yeah, decline's not the right word either. There's too many negative.
Twilight?
The twilight, sure, of Zach Cassian's sort of role on the Oilers. You know what I mean? I think there might be something there. There's a connection, I think, between Cassian and Kara, and there always has been. Like, they've been occupying the same sphere on that team, I think.
Interesting. Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It was a hell of a fun time to see them both fight early on in that other game. But
it was weird. I mean, and even looking back on that fight, it looked to me like Jujar sort of accepted that fight, not reluctantly, but it wasn't necessarily on his mind. I don't think he expected for that to happen. And then Cassian got it. Like, it's just there's a lot of connections between those two guys and where they fit on this team, I think.
Okay. What else stood out to you, like, in terms of like, I mean, obviously it's pretty notable that 3 defensemen scored, first game in a long time. Leon and Connie were off the sheet. I mean, I think someone, Reed Wilkins, tweeted out it was like 2017 or some nonsense. Like, it's crazy.
2018.
Okay. And honestly, like, I love Darnell Nurse's game right now. He reminds me of how I would play as a defenseman in the offensive zone when I was playing NHL, EA Sports NHL, because, like, I would never be unafraid to just lob it at the net with like a wrister that, like, maybe the goalie wasn't expecting, because, like, you know, you kind of get tuned in and you kind of know when the AI will fuck it up, and you're like, you know, I bet the AI isn't expecting me to shoot a wrister from like way out here. And then it just goes in, you know, bounces off of him. And, you know, there's like moments where, you know, like I remember at one point there was a giveaway in the defensive zone, but like, that's going to happen, you know, like, he's such a good all around defenseman. I just think it would be so crazy for us to not be like madly in love with having him.
He's so rangy. He's one of the rangiest defensemen I've ever seen on the Oilers.
He's great.
Like, he's such a
play.
he really is. Really uses his entire body as a defenseman. You know, like, he's each limb is almost imbibed with pure defensive potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when he comes up the ice, like when he comes up the ice on a rush, there's not a lot of guys that really do that. And honestly, I mean, he gets caught a few times, but I'd say for the most part, Darnell's rushes are pretty. I mean, there usually something happens. Like he scored a few times on them. It's usually kind of a wild chance. Like, I've never really. Darnell's not the guy on the defense that I ever singled out for being a problem on the defense. And I think he's a huge room guy. I think he's really, really important to that room.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm getting really, like, I've been fed up with the anti-Darnell talk out there for a long time, but at this point, it's just like, if you're still on the anti-Darnell nurse train, fuck you. We fucking hate you. We're done. It's over. We're finding someone else to talk to and spend our time with. Okay.
What about,
okay.
What do you think about, Tyler Ennis? What are your
honestly
thoughts on that?
I think TBD, I think we should get him involved in the TBD Foundation, help support TBD, ending TBD. Yeah.
I think we'll see. I think he's a really great addition to this team. I think he brings something, and more importantly, he's able to find his way out of things. Like if he goes through a spell where, he's not a superstar by any stretch, but if you're a player that can have a shitty game, especially a veteran who can fall into a funk and then find your way out of it, I think for the rest of the team to see something like that, it's really important. And I think he's the type of guy who excels at that. Like he seems to be just from what I've seen on the television, but he seems to bring a lot of veteran positivity to that team, which is the thing about having a veteran in the room is they've been there before, right? And they know how to, they've been in so many situations that they're good at dealing with them. And I think Tyler Ennis is good at dealing with bad situations in a really positive way.
For sure. I think that is one of the key things about veterans. Like Neil, I feel like we get a little bit of that action too.
A little bit, but not as much as Ennis. Neil seems too specialized. Like maybe he's like a good, just too specialized. Like he's a goal scorer. You know what I mean? Like that's his bread and butter. Whereas Ennis is more of like a, so goes the team, so goes Tyler, or however that phrase goes. Maybe
as Tyler Ennis goes, so goes the team.
Yeah, but I don't think that's like what I mean to say at all, actually.
I don't know that.
But you know honestly, what I mean? He seems to be more, he's not an extreme player. He's in the middle. And he's extremely positive. It's a positive veteran presence with a touch. I mean, that was like he knows how to score goals. You know what I mean? Like he has an offensive mind.
Yeah.
He's
a former offensive, like high-powered, like offensive dynamo. Like when you look at the Tyler Ennis like highlight reel, but he's also like found a way to hang around.
Yeah,
and he still has a lot of dimension to his game. I mean,
totally.
To be honest, I'm happy to have him like in the mix, but like it's not as though we've found the exact right spot in the cupboard for him to go.
I don't know. I mean, wherever he was last night, I'd maybe leave him there for like a little while. Like that's what I'm saying. They should keep him in the lineup and in the room because, you know what I mean? Guys that know how to survive and hang in there, who've made their career out of hanging in there.
Yeah.
Like he has, like, you get a guy like that to have him in there. I don't necessarily think you go out and get that guy so you continue
to have him in and out.
To have him in and out. So I think they should. I'd be happy if they left him in the lineup. I think that'd be for this next stretch of games. The Montreal game, I would love to see him in the lineup. I'd like to see a lineup similar to what we had last night. I think that was a good lineup. You know what I mean? Like 40, we gave up 40 shots, but a lot of those shots were from the outside. I was, for the most part, pretty happy with our defensive game.
A big part of that was scoring effects too. We were leading pretty much the whole game, so.
Yeah, but we played. Yeah,
I mean, you give up more shots on the outside when you're playing with a lead, is what I mean. Like you're going to give up a few more like low quality chances because you're mostly just forechecking and.
True. Yes, but the Oilers also blocked a lot of shots last night. Like they were they blocked a ton of shots. I don't know. I thought last night, I remember that Toronto game that was a piece of shit, and the Oilers won that game, and people were saying that it was a really great defensive game. And I thought it wasn't a really good defensive game. I thought this game last night, even though they gave up 40 shots, I thought that was a good defensive game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To be honest, I was much more impressed by Tyson Berry's game last night. I
Oh
really think
yeah,
he's really
totally.
starting to turn it on, and I think it's just like there was this one point. I think it was on the power play where McDavid made a play to him to the point, and it was just
Yeah,
like a kind of a tricky little pass to make, but it was the play was executed so well that I was like, oh wait, like he knows where Tyson Berry's going to be, and like Tyson Berry looks way more keyed in. He's like a half second faster with all of his decisions, and he
yeah,
just seems to be like really offensively dynamic and moving the puck and getting on the puck and like great rushes, great passing, just like all around. Like he just seems dialed in, and I'm really real
yeah,
glad that it hasn't taken that long because he looks like a completely different player to me now.
yeah.
Like
I would
and the
agree.
team playing around him looks different too on the power play. Like whereas before, Connie and Leon were playing it to him on the point, and it seemed like they didn't know what was going to happen exactly. There was some confusion, or it wasn't
Yeah.
quite as quick or crisp, and it's really crisp and quick right now, and I'm
The
really liking it. Like I'm getting really excited about it, to be honest.
the power play to me is still not there. And it's I
Yeah,
think, I mean, I hope it'll come, but when I watch the
a lot
power
of what I liked
play,
was 5-on-5, but yeah, power play still
yeah,
needs
they
to get
played
there. Yeah,
absolutely. They played a great 5-on-5 game last night. But the other thing is that again, I mean, we were just in this situation, right? We just played Ottawa like a week ago and stomped them, and we were feeling so good. We were feasting on strike, and then uh, we played a team that wasn't Ottawa and just like totally blew it. So I'm not willing to uh, totally. I mean, like they still have to show up in this game against Montreal. This next game against Montreal is crucial. Like they had to win these Ottawa games. They just had to. There's no two ways about it. But and they should have. Like Ottawa's not a good hockey team.
yeah. That's the other
That's
thing.
not a
Like,
good team. That's what I'm
yeah,
saying. So
yeah.
it's
I mean, how
tough
many
to
of our?
measure.
I think we're third in the Northern Abstraction right now. Hashtag Northern
Yes.
Abstraction. But how many? I think half of our points are from Ottawa or just Ottawa.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think this Montreal game will be a great measuring stick for where the team is at.
Yeah, it'll be in the metric system. It won't be in some fucking defunct medieval system that no one cares about anymore.
And if they do really well against Montreal, I think the entire conversation about this team, like if they play a good game against Montreal and they win that game, I think the entire conversation about the Oilers begins to turn a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I think you're absolutely right, and I really hope they wake up and show up big time for this one because if they don't, it'll be a bitter pill. It'll
yeah,
be a
it really
bitter
will.
fucking pill. And
Yeah.
Montreal is like, really strong right now, and they got a great goaltender.
I
And
mean, Montreal's going to show up. Montreal, make no mistake, like the Habs will be there. Like the
bien sûr,
Habs are going to fucking show up.
bien sûr.
Yeah. Who do you think starts that game?
Mike Smith, I hope. I think,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
at the same time, part of me wonders if for whatever reason, possibly also Mike. I hate to bring it up again, but Mike Smith's age, like
Oh my God. Well, like AJ
maybe
nothing
Tippett.
but
No,
a
I'm just
number,
saying,
man.
like a Tippett. I have a contrarian vibe when it comes to him and choosing the goalie starts.
Yeah,
So
I know you
because
do.
of last year,
Yeah.
I'm always kind of expecting when I think he's going to go left, he goes right, and it's like when I think he's going to just give Mikko tons of time off and just hand the keys
Right.
to Mike Smith, he might just give Mikko half the start still or something crazy like that. But it'll definitely be
Yeah.
Mike Smith. It'll definitely be Mike Smith. There's no
Yeah, I think
question.
it will too.
And I honestly think the beginning of the game, the debut of Mike Smith's, Mike Smith's debut versus the last game, you could just sense a different energy with the whole team.
Of
And
course.
there's just like a lot more like when they have a little bit more confidence in the goaltender, um, everyone just is a little more like got a little more energy, a little more like into it, a little more like excited to
Yes.
get out there. It seems like
Of course.
more than
Of
anything because they're just like
course.
we got it, we got a huge chance here. We got a good goalie in net right now. We don't have a goalie who looks like he's kind of just like a little scared.
Well, man, you replace that nervousness with something that's not nervousness, right? So no
It's just
matter
like
what,
joie de vivre. Yeah.
yes, like you're replacing the nervousness with excitement and like not being nervous, confidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's
You replace it with everything. There's some things when you
it can only
replace
bring
like
success.
if you replace nervousness, like nervousness is very all-encompassing emotion. It's like anger, you kind of forget everything else that's going on when you're nervous or angry.
Right. Totally.
You-
Yes.
every idea you had for the funny thing to say on the podcast today just flies out of your head because you're pissed off because Windows won't restart, and you're just like, "Rah!" But like, so we're replacing nervousness. We're replacing nervousness with like life itself, because like,
Right. Yes.
there's just so much air out there for everything else once you clear your head of the nervousness and the anxiety and whatnot. So that's what we saw with the Mike Smith game, and I'm looking forward to the game against Montreal. So that game in Montreal? It must be, right?
Yeah, the game's in Montreal. Yeah.
Does it start like super early?
I have no idea.
I'm looking forward to that.
And if Mike Smith starts that game, I mean, what a huge game for Mike Smith. Talk about an opportunity. You know what I mean? If Mike Smith gets to start in that game and he plays well, then the conversation about, not only does the conversation about the team begin to turn, but the conversation about Mike Smith really begins to have new dimensions to it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, it's a huge game for Mike Smith. A game that in theory, a guy like Mike Smith is made for. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That'll be a great game. I'm really looking forward to the Montreal game. Not because I think we're riding a high right now, just because I think it has huge implications for this team. Win or lose. Win or lose. So
absolutely.
Really looking forward to it.
Final question, just because we are going into Montreal. We have one Francophone on the team, last I checked, and that is one Alex Chiasson. By the way, like, what pronunciation of his last name do you like the best? Like, some people call him Chiasson. I like Chiasson. Which way do you go?
I think I like Chiasson. Chiasson is what I go with.
Oh, really? I like Chiasson. Interesting.
Yeah, they're both really good, and I've used them both, and I've found immense pleasure out of both of them. But I think typically I go for Chiasson.
Where do you see him at right now?
I think
he's done some good work in front of the net with screens here and there, but we need more, obviously, right?
Yeah, he's been really quiet, and I think there's been other guys doing his job as well or better than he's been doing it. But I think he's very valuable to the team, and I hope he finds success soon, because I mean, that's the whole. He needs to stay in the lineup. I think I would like for him to find a role in this team that allows him to stay on this team on a regular basis, because he's been there. He's been to the mountaintop. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have a guy like that to not play and not be in the room and not be on the bench when the shit's going down. So I hope. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's going to get more opportunities, I think. I don't know where he's at himself. Obviously, like. He's had a time with the Oilers. You know what I mean? Like, he's had a weird stop with the Edmonton Oilers in his career. I wish he'd
one of his longer term stops, though. It's like, it's weird when one of your longer term stops is a weird stop. Because usually the short term stops are the weird stops. I'm cheering for him. I hope he pots too against Montreal.
I hope he's able to make some sort of stamp on this team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This would be a big game for him to show up.
Totally. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Of course.
And then the last question I want to ask is, do you think we're seeing why Kenny Holland and the management were worried about losing one Willie Lagesson on waivers? Do you think we're seeing like why they're so high on him?
Yeah.
I mean, he's still a work in progress, but there's some, in terms of like a physical, like, he's a good defender.
I mean, we can start with his jib. I mean, that's almost all you need to know. Yeah. That's almost all you need to know. The jib, his jib is spectacular.
Is he someone who could evolve into like the Adam Larson role that's currently on this team?
I wouldn't even. I mean, what?
Okay, fine. Do you think he could emerge as like one of our top defensive defensemen?
I do. I think so. I really like his game. He threw some big hits in the last game, and he was positioned really well. He didn't play outside of himself, which is, I mean, with defensemen, one thing I've noticed, especially at the beginning of their career, there'll be like one or two games where people after the game will say that they didn't play outside of their game. You know what I mean? Like they didn't really make any mistakes. But then it's when they've played a few games and they start feeling a little more confident and comfortable with making decisions. That's when you tend to see them make bad decisions, right? So I don't really know where he's at. I put him in the TBD camp as well, but I definitely like what I'm seeing from him. And I think there might be something in that combination of Larson and Legason. I'm not sure. I mean, Larson, right to me right now, whenever they show that guy on TV, he just looks like he's got the 1,000-yard stare going. You know what I mean? Like he's not.
Well, that's neither here nor there. Some people are just like that. I think he's played pretty good.
Maybe, but he's also sort of playing like that at times. You know what I mean?
I lost your video.
Did you really?
Yeah. Well, what remains to be seen. I mean, it would be interesting if
his body language hasn't been great. His body language hasn't been great, and his play hasn't been spectacular. His play hasn't been making me thinking there's no connection between his body language and his game. But maybe this Legason-Larson combination, sometimes that's all it takes for a defenseman to like the right pairing, right?
Totally.
There's two guys. It's important. Your pairing.
Same thing with like a wine and a steak. You know, the right pairing can make all the difference. You know,
yeah.
You have like a steak. You have a steak that has terrible body language. You know, it's depressed. It's despondent. You know, then you bring in a fresh young, like red, you know, nice Merlot or whatever.
Okay.
You know, from like a Swedish Merlot, which are very famous. Yeah. Okay. Last question. It's more of a comment, really. Okay. Are you surprised that? Like if we went back in time and talked to ourselves back in the summer and said, okay, the Oilers are going to have injuries to Oscar Klefbom and Ethan Bear, and the season won't be derailed because of it necessarily, would you be surprised? Like it's pretty impressive that we've been able to weather that, don't you think?
I don't know.
Two of our top 4 defensemen last year, and like one of them being like, you know, a minutes muncher extraordinaire, like a minutes muncher. Like across the entire NHL of note.
I mean, I've always thought that our defense had potential, but we never really played I mean, we went on runs last year when we were really good, man, and the defense wasn't that much of a problem. Like the Oilers for the past couple of years wouldn't be a team that I would have said have real shitty defense. Like it was never huge glaring errors, at least consistently, by the defense that I thought were major problems.
No, I mean, I'm just saying,
at times, I wouldn't be surprised.
Improved depth. We have improved depth at the position.
Yeah,
no question.
If you had told me that those guys were out, I might think we're sort of like exactly where we're at. Maybe a bit better because we also have Connor and Dry. Like we have Connor McDavid. You know what I mean?
That's true.
And I think if we would have had, I don't know. Not the defense necessarily. I would have thought we would have.
All right. Well, why don't we leave it there? I know you got to go in a couple of minutes here, bro. For all the listeners out there, please like and subscribe. Please comment. Please send us a message on Twitter. We love you, and we'll look forward to the Montreal game. You want to record Thursday night or like Friday during the day?
Probably. I don't know. One of the two.
One of the two sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan. All right, brother. I'll talk to you really soon, okay? Have a good one.
Okay, see you later. Bye.